Welcome to Hustle and Flow with Heather Hubbard, episode 147. Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard, and I was a litigator, partner, and practice group leader at an Am Law 200 firm. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your personal life. So how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you embrace your ambition without selling your soul? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back. I am your host, Heather Hubbard. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have not yet left a rating or a review, please push pause and go do so. It means a lot to me. I try to bring you a ton of valuable free content each and every week. And if you're wondering what you can do as a thank you, leaving an honest rating and review on iTunes or your favorite podcast app really does make a huge difference in helping other people get access as well. So if you've not done that yet, I would really appreciate it. All right, so let's do a check-in. We are a few weeks in to the new year, and I'm curious if you are still feeling really great and excited and motivated, or if you are already starting to feel behind or overwhelmed, or you're just not sure that you are willing, ready, and able to go for whatever big goals or resolutions you had set for the year. No judgment either way. I just want you to check in with where you are right now compared to where you were just a few weeks ago. And the reason why we need to have this conversation right now is because we know that 25% of people basically give up, intentionally or unintentionally, on their New Year's goals within 1 week. Within 1 week. Now, a lot of times those New Year's goals, they're really more resolutions, and a lot of times they are related to health or changing habits. And if you remember from last year with episode 99, we talked about what it meant to actually change habits. It's hard. It's really, really hard. So I think that's why we have a quarter of the people who are setting resolutions giving up or not following through within 1 week, because it's just so dang hard. But I don't want you to give up, because I know that you want these things. I assume you want these things. If you have not yet listened to the podcast episode from 2 weeks ago, which was episode 145, I want you to pause this and actually go listen to that first, because we talked about success strategies for your goals in 2020. And so part of that assumes that you set goals that you really, really want in the first place. Okay. So if you didn't, definitely go back and listen to episode 145, because it may be you just need to set new goals and do it now. Don't keep moving forward with something that you're already not liking, or you're getting frustrated with and you think you're going to quit, or you've already quit. Don't wait until next year. Let's get in front of this now. So go back and listen to that episode. But if you do have goals and resolutions that you have set that you really, really want, and you've narrowed in, you're focused, but you're either just struggling with what it looks like to change a habit, or you're struggling with the day-to-day, because it seems like more and more, everybody tends to shut down. Seems like the week of Christmas and the week after with the new year, like no one's working. So a lot of people, even if you are working, there aren't a lot of people in the office. You may not be getting a bunch of phone calls. You might not be working your full days. You're certainly probably not doing the extracurricular activities. So this is the week where you are definitely fully back into the swing of things, and you might have forgotten how busy your life is, right? Around the holidays, we just have this magical sense of, everything feels better, and I have so much room on my calendar. And then we remember, oh, actually, I don't. and I'm playing catch up. All my clients are playing catch up. And now everyone is like, go, 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 go. And then suddenly it's like, wait, I don't have much time for my goals or my resolutions. And then the third reason may be that you're just waiting to feel like it. Like maybe it's not as fun as you thought it was going to be, or it's not, right? Like, I mean, you're busy, but it's not that, you have to keep canceling whatever you were going to do. It's just a matter of you're not making it a priority. And so it's not like you're actively avoiding it, but it's not as fun as you thought it would be. You're not making it the priority that you thought you would. And so it's just being postponed in your mind, right? Like you've not given up. You're just waiting until a better time or when you feel like it. So if that's where you are, it's time to have an intervention and let's get you back on track, okay? Because you really, really want it and it is going to make you feel better as you move toward the life that you want, right? Okay, so here's the thing. Above all else, you just have to be consistent. You have to be consistent. When you are not regularly focused on your goals and your resolutions, it creates too much of a gap. It creates too much space for you to say you're too busy, for you to say, I don't feel like it, for you to say, this is just too hard, right? So part of going after your goals and your resolutions in the first place is having good habits around planning. Yeah. So the best way to start developing that habit of not just planning, but taking action toward the goals that you want is consistency. I think a lot of times with the new year, we're a bit gung-ho and we think that we can get more done than we really can, or that we're going to have more motivation, time, energy to do it. And so part of being consistent is being realistic. As opposed to saying, I am going to go to the gym 3 days a week for an hour each day, when you have not been to the gym in 3 years. I would rather you say, you know what? I'm going to be active every single day for 20 minutes or active 5 days a week, right? When you try to do too much too soon, or you try to do too much in really small increments, it can lead to burnout, but it can also create too much space, right? Because the key is just for you to be taking regular action. So if you are not proceeding the way that you had planned towards your goals or your resolutions, I want you to ask yourself what's getting in the way. What's getting in the way? So for example, if we stick with this concept of you're going to go to the gym 3 days a week for an hour, and you're having a hard time getting to the gym in the first place, right? You got your membership and, you went the first time and it was exciting, but now you don't want to get out of bed. Maybe you were going in the morning. Okay, well, maybe you can try the afternoon. But if you don't want to go in the afternoon either, then that tells you, okay, it's a matter of getting to the gym. So is there a different solution that would allow you to be more consistent? So can you just have a few hand weights in your office? Can you walk the stairs in your building, each time you go to your office? Find small ways that you can incorporate into your daily life that makes it easier for you to be consistent with the action that you're taking. This is also true if you're trying to do something like start to have a meditation or a mindfulness practice. Maybe in your mind, you're going to do it in the morning, but the kids or your spouse keeps interrupting you. Or maybe you think that you're going to do it before you go to sleep, but you fall asleep before you can actually finish. Then what you want to do is look at your environment and find ways to support it. So if you can't make modifications that actually helps you stay consistent, then what you want to do is change up the environment. So maybe it's that you're doing your meditation and mindfulness practice at the office. Maybe it's during lunch. Maybe you are getting out of the office and going to a park, or maybe you're going to a yoga studio, whatever that looks like. The key is to say, okay, what is keeping me from actually taking action? Can I change up the time or the environment to help me get it done? And if not that, how can I just incorporate it even more into my daily life such that it's not this, huge deal? So as opposed to trying to meditate 20 or 30 minutes, every morning or every night, maybe it's that you're going to just meditate for 5 minutes 3 times a day, one as you're walking to your building, one during lunch, and then another as you're walking back to your car, whatever that looks like. And you would just do that on your own, find a technique, find, Shel Silverstein, she has many meditations. You can find something that will work for you that is not as big, but it's allowing you to be consistent and to incorporate this new behavior, this new action on a regular basis, because that is far more important. You're not going to be able to stick it out with the long haul. You're not going to be able to develop a new habit if you're not doing it consistently. And this isn't just for health, right? Like, it's not just about exercising and well-being and meditation. This same concept holds true for goals related to your career and your business. I think a lot of my listeners tend to have businesses or careers that require them to have their own clients, right? So you're trying to build a book of business. And so often that is a goal, whether it is more revenue, more clients, you have some kind of goal around increasing your business. And so you might have these thoughts about you're going to do more marketing or different kinds of marketing. You're going to do more networking. You're going to go to more lunches, whatever it is that's in your plan. But if you're not already doing that, it's not yet a habit for you. And if the business development that you do is really when an opportunity arises or when you, find that time, I'm putting that in quotation marks, then you're probably not going to just do it. Right? Like, you've got these great ideas and you're like, okay, in the month of January, I'm going to increase my revenue by X amount, or I'm going to do these extra business development activities, but then you don't actually ever get around to doing them, or you don't hit that goal, right? You don't hit the revenue number and you're just like, well, that didn't happen. You have to actually take action and you have to do it consistently. So I know some people who are like, okay, I'm going to set aside 3 hours once a week, or I'm going to set aside 1 day a week, or I'm going to set aside a weekend each month for business development. And this may be ringing true for you. You might be thinking, yes, that's part of my plan. Well, that's the same concept of going to the gym 3 times for an hour each time when you've not been to the gym in 3 years. If you're not in the practice of regularly developing business, right? If it's just here, there, hit or miss, throwing spaghetti against the wall, then claiming that you're suddenly going to do 3 hours on a Friday, or you're going to spend an entire day each month, that's probably not realistic because that is so out of the norm for you. And the reason you weren't doing it previously was not because you didn't have the bright idea. It was because you were in the habit of just putting out fires and dealing with your to-do list and everything that's past due. That's not going to change. That's not going to change. So it's actually better for you. You are more likely to stick with it, get some momentum, change your habits, change your behavior, and start to get results if you chunk it down. So it would be far more productive for you to spend 15 or 20 minutes every single morning on business development, 5 days a week, than to say you're going to do 3 hours one day. Because if you can get in the habit of the first 15 minutes of my day in the office relate to business development, you're more likely to stick with it. Again, this all goes back to the neuroscience on habits. You can go back to episode 99 and listen to that. But it's really about getting into that routine. So if you send out an email, right? Because you might be thinking, well, what can I do in 15 minutes? Well, my guess is you've got all kinds of ideas. So just pick the ideas that only take 15 minutes. And if you're like, well, I've got stuff that takes longer than that. Okay, well, once you get started, if you want to keep going, you can, but don't let that be an excuse for you to skip the next day. And here's the other piece to that. You might have great ideas that you really want to act upon, but if you've never really done it before, I would encourage you to be more consistent and regular and not worry about those bigger ideas right now than trying to execute on those ideas, because you're not going to end up following through. You're more likely to, trail off, not actually do it. And then it never happens anyway. It never happens anyway. So I would rather you get into the consistent action. And then once that has become a habit, then you can go focus on those bigger things. So I guarantee you that you have someone that you could email every single day. You could write a handwritten card to someone. You could pick up the phone and call someone. You could send them a voice memo. You might send them a gift. Whatever it is, there's so many different things that you could do in 15 minutes every single day. And I guarantee you that will pay off. If you just do that, you will be shocked at how much more revenue you have in a few months, because building relationships, reaching out to people, it does make a difference. So, and that is not throwing spaghetti against the wall. And that's not everyone's strategy. I'm now getting a little sidetracked, but 15 minutes every day is going to be far more valuable for you than trying to create this new routine that you've never done before and that you're probably not going to stick with. Okay. So as you're hearing me tell you this, if you're thinking, yeah, but I'm actually doing that, Heather, I said I'm going to do 3 hours a week, and I've done it now 1 week or 2 weeks in a row. Okay. As soon as you actually skip a week, please, please, please try to come back to my voice in your head saying consistency. Consistency is far more important. All right. So just know that anytime you're doing these things, you are setting new habits, and they're really hard to do. The best way to develop a new habit is to have a cue, and having a cue means consistent cues. All right. And not to fully go back to that episode, but you also need a reward. If you start seeing results in terms of being less stressed when you're doing your meditation, if you start seeing results as to feeling better or losing weight or fitting into clothes, that's a reward. If you start getting traction or enjoying the conversations that you're having, or you get new inquiries because of the work that you're doing 15 minutes a day with business development, all of those things, the results from each, those are rewards, and they will make you want to keep going. So that really is my message for you today, is that if you are struggling with sticking with your goals and resolutions, know, one, you're perfectly normal and human. This is what we do, but you don't have to quit. All you have to do is be consistent, and you can do it. You can do it. We can all do something 15 minutes a day. So whatever your goals are, whatever your resolutions are, you can commit 15 minutes a day to them. Like, you can. There is absolutely no reason why you can't. So if you want it bad enough, just know that if you can commit to being consistent, you are going to start seeing results, and you will over time create that new habit, that new behavior that's going to get you what you want. You guys, great news. The 2020 planners, project pad, and bookmarks are finally here. More than a typical planner, it is a complete planning system that will revolutionize the way you approach your days, weeks, months, and years. It will help you achieve your biggest goals and work on that to-do list so that you can take back your day and focus on what matters most. Get yours now at lifeandlawplanner.com. Now, I think I've shared on here before, I used to teach a course called Goals Reimagined. And as I was preparing for the live event in Miami in November, I pulled out those old materials, the course book. I pulled it out, and I pulled out the webinar and the slides that I used to actually sell that program. And the funny thing is, in my mind, I thought it was no good because it was like when I had just started. But I pulled it out, and it was pretty good. It's pretty good. And so as I was looking at it, I thought, I've not talked about this in a while. And I think it would actually be helpful for you to know as you are trying to stick with your goals. So here's what I have in these slides. One thing I've already shared with you, which is that 25% give up after 1 week. 50% give up within 3 months. So even if you're going strong now, there is a 50-50 chance that you won't be going strong come April. And then here's the kicker. Only 8% achieve their New Year's goals. 8%, right? So the numbers are not on your side, but I will tell you the best way to be in that 8% is to be consistent. And you might be saying, well, Heather, that sounds great and all, but it's easier said than done. I get it's only 15 minutes, and yet I still struggle. Totally get that. Perfectly normal. But it doesn't mean that you can't overcome it. It doesn't mean that you can't overcome it. You have overcome so many challenges and difficulties in your life that I hear you on it may be difficult, but I wholly reject the idea that you can't do it if you don't want to. If you want to, you can totally do it. And I have a tip for you that also comes from my Goals Reimagined slides. And this is what I've not really talked about in a while, which is affirmations. Affirmations. And, they get a bad rap. You might think of the SNL skits, but they really do work. And I would encourage you to give them a try if you are struggling. And here's the thing, you're actually already saying affirmations to yourself, whether you realize it or not. An affirmation is simply affirming something, right? It's repeating something to yourself over and over again. And you are already talking to yourself. So in my slides, this was called Become Your Own Life Coach. Become your own life coach. If you are struggling with being consistent, if you struggle with the concept of showing up, even in small bits every single day, you've got to become your own life coach. So my first bullet point was let your inner coach support and guide you. And it's funny, as I was looking back at this, people were like tweeting and putting on Facebook, they all loved this page. So I was like, yeah, you guys might like it too. So let your inner coach support and guide you. You are already letting your inner critic do that. Okay. So when I was saying there's already a bunch of trash talk going on in your head, a lot of you're not good enough, you don't have discipline, you don't have willpower, you're never going to lose this weight, you're lazy, you're never going to be able to manage your stress, or you're never going to grow this book of business because you're not good at relationships, you're not good at marketing. I mean, right? Can I go on and on and on? You're already saying this to yourself every day, right? You're already saying these affirmations. And the thing about an affirmation is, this is what I have on here. If you hear it enough, you believe it. And when you believe it, you act accordingly. Think of all of the negative things you're already telling yourself about not following through on your goals or your resolutions. If you keep listening to that voice in your head, if you keep listening to that inner critic, you are going to believe the inner critic. And when you believe the inner critic, you act accordingly, which means you're not going to go to the gym. You're not going to get out of the bed. You're not going to reach out to those prospects. You are not going to do the work. But here's the great thing. The same holds true for the opposite, right? So here's the next bullet point. Your inner critic takes his job very seriously. Give your coach a promotion. Yeah, give your inner coach a promotion. Your inner critic is like doing a heck of a job. So you really need to give that positive voice a promotion. And that's where coming up with affirmations really can help. So the key to a really good affirmation is that it needs to be in the present tense. It needs to be positive. It needs to be realistic. And then I've got on here bonus points for specificity. So you don't want to say that you're going to one day be something, right? Like you want to say that you are it now. Where a lot of people get tripped up with affirmations is they say something that is not realistic. So you have the affirmation, but every time you say it out loud, the inner critic is like, yeah, right. And so then it doesn't sink in. You're still letting the inner critic have the louder voice. So it has to be realistic. So instead of saying, I will lose 10 pounds by the end of the month by working out regularly, right? That's not really an affirmation. It could be, I am the kind of person who spends 20 minutes a day doing some kind of activity, and I feel great because of it. And you say it every time. Every morning, you might say it many times a day. I've got a few more notes on this in a minute on how you constantly repeat it to yourself. But, right, that may sound doable, and it's in the present tense because you're already doing it. I'm the kind of person, or, right, it doesn't have to even be I'm the kind of person. It can be, I move my body 20 minutes every single day, and I feel great because of it. Even if you've not started moving your body 20 minutes a day, if you just say, I move my body 20 minutes a day, the more you tell yourself, this is what I do, and you tell other people that, don't worry about, well, I'm not doing that. Tell others when they're like, what's part of your plan? I move my body 20 minutes every day, and I feel great because of it. So go ahead and say it in the present tense. It needs to be positive, right? So it's not that I will not stay in bed. I am not the kind of person who stays in bed. That's negative. It needs to be positive. And again, it needs to be realistic. So when you say it, if it doesn't feel realistic, even if it's not real yet, but you have to be able to feel somewhat connected to it and think, yeah, that kind of feels true. I'm going to prove that it's true, right? So that's where, if you say, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in a week, or if you say, I am completely debt free when you have a ton of debt, you're going to reject that. And the inner critic is going to have the louder voice. And then again, I have the bonus points for specificity, because the more specific you are with your affirmations as to what you're doing, the more likely you will follow through on it. Because as I said before, the more you hear something, the more you believe it. And the more you believe it, the more you act accordingly. And that's really what consistency is all about, right? And so I have some ideas for how you can promote your coach, your inner coach, if you aren't already in the habit of being able to catch your negative thoughts and immediately, promote the inner coach to give you something more positive instead. Go ahead and write your affirmations out related to the consistent action you're wanting to take. And you can put them on index cards. You can put them on your mirror when you're getting ready in the morning, or put them in the drawer with, your toothpaste so that you see it. You can do calendar reminders and alarms on your phone, on your work calendar. You can mail yourself cards. I love to do this with my retreats sometimes in my masterminds. I have them write themselves messages, and then I keep them for a little bit and I mail it back to them. You could do something similar. Just, prep it, give it to your assistant. It's already written, and let them send it in to you. You can do it as a computer screensaver. You can do it as a password. I love to do that. All of my passwords, it is some type of affirmation or reminder what I'm going towards. You can put it in your luggage if you travel a lot, right? Put cards in there. And you might think, this is really silly. Okay, maybe, but what would your coach do? If your coach was really trying to motivate you, what would your coach do? And how many times would they interrupt your thought patterns every single day to let you know that you got it, right? Because your inner critic is already doing a heck of a job. So if you don't actively fire that inner critic and promote your inner coach, you're going to continue to struggle with taking the action that you want to get the results that you want. So that's it, guys. That is the key. If you want to be in that 8%, and I want you to be in that 8%, I personally think that everyone who follows and listens to what I say, and they actually take action, because I think you are action takers, right? If you follow the system, maybe we should do a survey. I just think my people's numbers are a lot higher than 8%. So I think that 50% of you guys should be reaching your New Year's goals by the end of the year. But the only way that you're going to be in that 50% is if you are taking consistent, regular action. And if you struggle with that, play around with some affirmations. I think you might really like them, and it might get you started. You might not even need them very long, but it'll get you started and get you taking regular, consistent action, which is going to make a world of difference. All right, before we go, just a quick plug for the Life and Law Planner. You don't have to be a lawyer to use it. This planner was created. I've been using this system since I was in middle school. This is the system I use to stay consistent and make my goals a priority each and every day, not just when I can find time. And so many people used to ask me, like, what planner do you use or what system do you use? And so I created it because you asked for it, and it works if you work it. So if you are struggling with being consistent or knowing how to plan your months, your weeks, and your days to actually take that regular, consistent action, do yourself a favor and go buy a copy today. You can get one at lifeandlawplanner.com. And like I said, it's not just for lawyers. Anyone can benefit from it. I promise you, it can make a huge, huge difference in actually being consistent and following through on your goals. And very last announcement. We just wrapped up the kickoff, the opening retreat for the 2020 experience, which was so amazing out at Miraval in Tucson, Arizona. And if you've not heard, we are doing one more pod for the 2020 experience. It is limited to 6 women. And if you weren't able to make it to Miraval, like if that's the reason why you didn't apply, or you're just hearing about it, or you're like, you know what, I now really need the support to go big in 2020, just know that we are going to have a pod that is kicking off virtually at the end of the month. But you are then otherwise completely part of the program. So you will be with the rest of the women for the rest of the year. You'll be able to do the rest of our in-person events. So if you are interested in that, get your application in now. We're probably going to be wrapping up interviews later this week. So you can apply at 2020mastermindexperience.com. Now it's going to have Miraval on there, but just know that this particular offer on the program won't include that. So if we think you're a good fit, we'll get you all the information. And if you're then still interested, we will schedule an interview and hopefully onboard you and include you in the group. We are doing really, really big things. It is an amazing group, and I know you would get so much out of it. All right, that's it for this week. Stick with your goals, guys. You are worth it. And I'll be back next week with a new episode. For show notes, downloads, and other free resources, and to keep the conversation going, head on over to hustleandflowpodcast.com. See you there.